Welcome to Awakening Heaven on Earth. Before we begin, take a moment to arrive. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to believe, and nowhere you need to go. Simply listen, contemplate, and notice what stirs and resonates within you. This is a shared space of reflection, presence, and remembrance. Now, let us begin. Welcome to this episode focused on One Source, One Light, the Unity of All Paths. Recommended reading. In this episode, we explore a collection of books that deepen our understanding of the sacred thread running through the world's wisdom traditions. These readings do not ask us to erase difference. They do not ask us to pretend that every path says exactly the same thing. Instead, they invite us to listen more deeply. To recognize shared longings beneath diverse languages. To see how religion, mysticism, psychology, science, philosophy, and lived experience can each point toward a deeper wholeness. One source. One light. Many paths. One sacred thread. Let us begin. The first recommended reading is The World's Religions by Huston Smith. The central message of this book is reverent understanding. Huston Smith approaches the great wisdom traditions of the world not as museum pieces, not as competing products, and not as systems to be judged from the outside, but as living paths that have carried meaning, discipline, beauty, and hope for countless souls. This book helps us step beyond inherited stereotypes and enter the inner world of each tradition with humility. It reminds us that before we compare, critique, or defend, we must first seek to understand. Its gift to this episode is spiritual literacy. We cannot honor the unity of all paths if we have never listened deeply to the paths themselves. Now, consider this question. Which spiritual tradition have I misunderstood, dismissed, or feared, and what might change if I approached it with reverence instead of judgment? The second recommended reading is The Perennial Philosophy by Aldous Huxley. The central message of this book is that beneath the outer forms of religion, many mystics and sages have pointed toward a shared metaphysical truth. Huxley gathers wisdom from East and West to suggest that the deepest spiritual insight is not merely belief about God, but direct transformation of consciousness. This is not a shallow claim that all religions are identical. It is a deeper recognition that the contemplative heart often discovers the same essential movement: surrender of ego, awakening to love, and union with the real. This book invites us to look for the inner essence behind the outer language. Its gift to this episode is depth. It reminds us that the sacred thread is not always visible on the surface. Sometimes it is found in silence, surrender, compassion, and the transformation of the self. Now, consider this question. Where have I mistaken the outer form of spirituality for the inner transformation it is meant to awaken? The third recommended reading is One River, Many Wells by Matthew Fox. The central message of this book is deep ecumenicalism. Matthew Fox uses the image of many wells drawing from one underground river of wisdom. Each well has its own shape, its own history, its own community, and its own language. Yet beneath them flows a shared river of sacred truth. This book is especially aligned with one source, one light, because it honors difference while pointing toward a deeper unity. It does not ask us to abandon our well. It asks us to recognize the river. Its gift to this episode is inner spiritual imagination. It helps us see how wisdom can arise from many sources and still nourish one human family. Now, consider this question. What well has nourished my soul, and can I bless the wells that nourish others? The fourth recommended reading is The Universal Christ by Richard Rohr. The central message of this book is that Christ is not only a name for Jesus, but a name for the divine presence shining through all creation. Richard Rohr invites readers to see Christ as a cosmic or universal reality. The light within all things. The pattern of love woven through the universe. The sacred presence in matter, body, earth, relationship, and history. For those formed within Christianity, this book can help widen the heart without abandoning the path. It invites a movement from exclusion toward participation, from narrow belief toward cosmic belonging. Its gift to this episode is the reminder that the one light is not far away. It is shining through the world. Now, consider this question. How would my life change if I saw the presence of Christ or the divine light shining within all creation? The fifth recommended reading is God has no religion, drawn from the universal teachings of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. The central message of this reading is that love is the true religion. Names, rituals, scriptures, and traditions can guide the soul, but they are not the final destination. The divine cannot be possessed by one label or confined to one community. The test of religion is love. Does it make us more compassionate? Does it make us more truthful? Does it make us more humble? Does it lead us to serve? Its gift to this episode is simplicity. When the mind becomes entangled in labels, the heart can return to the essence. Love is the sacred thread. Now, consider this question. Am I living my faith as a label to defend or as love to embody? The sixth recommended reading is The Varieties of Religious Experience by William James. The central message of this book is that religious experience must be taken seriously as part of human life. William James, writing from Psychology and Philosophy, explored the lived experience of conversion, mysticism, devotion, struggle, surrender, and transformation. Rather than beginning with institutions or doctrines, James looked at what happens within the human soul. This book helps us understand that spiritual experience often appears across traditions in surprisingly similar patterns. People encounter mystery. They are broken open. They are healed. They become more whole. They discover a reality greater than the ego. Its gift to this episode is psychological insight. It reminds us that the sacred thread can be studied not only in scriptures, but in transformed lives. Now consider this question. What experience in my own life has opened me to something larger than myself? The seventh recommended reading is The Awakened Brain by Lisa Miller. The central message of this book is that spirituality is not merely an idea or cultural inheritance. It is also part of human resilience, meaning, healing, and wholeness. Lisa Miller brings psychology and neuroscience into conversation with the spiritual life. Her work suggests that human beings are naturally capable of spiritual awareness, and that an awakened spiritual life can support mental health, strength, purpose, and connection. This reading expands the unity of all paths beyond theology alone. It reminds us that the longing for meaning, connection, transcendence, and sacred belonging is woven into the human experience. Its gift to this episode is integration. Science does not have to destroy wonder. It can help us understand how deeply wonder belongs to us. Now, consider this question. How has spiritual awareness supported my healing, resilience, purpose, or sense of belonging? The eighth recommended reading is The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. The central message of this book is moral humility. Jonathan Haidt explores why good people can be deeply divided by politics, religion, and moral vision. This book helps us understand that people often reason from different moral foundations. They may care about harm, fairness, loyalty, authority, liberty, sanctity, or other moral concerns in different ways. For this episode, the value of the book is not that it solves all disagreement. It teaches us to slow down before judging. It helps us recognize that people may be defending something sacred to them, even when we do not yet understand it. Its gift to this episode is compassion across difference. The sacred thread is easier to find when we stop reducing one another to caricatures. Now consider this question. Where do I need moral humility in order to listen more deeply to someone whose beliefs are different from mine? The ninth recommended reading is The Sacred and the Profane by Mircea Eliade. The central message of this book is that human beings have always experienced the world through patterns of sacred meaning. Mircea Eliade explores how sacred space, sacred time, ritual, myth, nature, and symbol shape religious consciousness across cultures. This book helps us see that the sacred is not only a doctrine to be believed. It is a way of inhabiting reality. A mountain can become sacred. A river can become sacred. A meal can become sacred. A story can become sacred. A moment can become a doorway. Its gift to this episode is symbolic understanding. It reminds us that every tradition carries maps of meaning, and those maps reveal how the human soul reaches toward the holy. Now consider this question. Where do I experience the sacred breaking through ordinary life? The 10th recommended reading is A Common Faith by John Dewey. The central message of this book is that there is a religious quality of experience that can inspire meaning, value, imagination, and action beyond rigid dogma. Dewey distinguishes between religion as institution and the religious as a quality of life. This reading offers a philosophical bridge for those who may not identify with traditional religion, yet still feel drawn to meaning, reverence, moral purpose, and the transformation of human life. Its gift to this episode is philosophical openness. It reminds us that the sacred thread may appear not only in temples and scriptures, but in the human commitment to truth, beauty, justice, community, and shared flourishing. Now consider this question. Where do I experience a religious quality of life, even outside formal religious language? The 11th recommended reading is The System's View of Life by Fritjof Capra and Pier Luigi Luisi. The central message of this book is interconnection. From the perspective of systems science, life is not best understood as isolated parts competing in separation, but as networks, relationships, patterns, and living processes. This book expands the unity of all paths into the language of science. The spiritual insight that all things are connected finds resonance in biology, ecology, complexity, and systems thinking. Nothing lives alone. No person awakens alone. No tradition exists apart from culture, history, earth, body, and relationship. Its gift to this episode is a scientific vision of wholeness. Unity is not merely a belief. It is woven into the structure of life. Now consider this question. How would I live differently if I truly understood myself as part of one living system? The 12th recommended reading is God is Not One by Stephen Prothero. This may seem like a surprising recommendation for an episode called One Source, One Light. But its central message is important. The world's religions are not simply identical paths saying the same thing in different words. They have real differences. Different questions. Different practices. Different visions of the human problem and the way toward healing. This book helps protect us from shallow universalism. It reminds us that honoring unity does not require us to erase difference. In fact, love becomes more mature when it can honor real difference without fear. Its gift to this episode is discernment. The unity of all paths is not sameness. It is harmony. Now, consider this question. Can I honor the real differences between traditions while still listening for the thread of love within them? As we bring these readings together, a larger picture begins to emerge. Houston Smith teaches us to understand. Aldous Huxley teaches us to seek the inner essence. Matthew Fox teaches us to recognize many wells drawing from one river. Richard Rohr teaches us to see the divine light shining through all creation. Sri Sathya Sai Baba teaches us that love is the true religion. William James teaches us to honor transformed experience. Lisa Miller teaches us that spirituality belongs to our healing and wholeness. Jonathan Haidt teaches us moral humility. Mircea Eliade teaches us to recognize sacred meaning. John Dewey teaches us to honor the religious quality of lived experience. Capra and Luisi teach us interconnection. Stephen Prothero teaches us not to confuse unity with sameness. Together, these books invite us into a wiser way of seeing. Not one religion conquering the others. Not every path collapsed into one bland sameness, but many paths honored with reverence. Many voices listened to with humility. Many teachings tested by their fruit. And one sacred thread of love recognized wherever it appears. So as you continue your journey, read not to collect opinions. Read to become more spacious. Read to become more loving. Read to become more humble. Read to recognize the one light shining through many windows. One source. One light. Many paths. One sacred thread. As we come to a close, remember that this journey continues in many expressions. This podcast is part of a family of partner podcasts. Awakening Heaven on Earth. The space between heaven and earth, and Living Heaven on Earth are 3 companion podcasts exploring spiritual awakening from complementary perspectives. Awakening Heaven on Earth offers the core teachings and mystical reflections on unity, love, and conscious living. The space between creates room for dialogue, reflection, and lived conversation around those teachings. Living Heaven on Earth focuses on basic spiritual practices that help embody these insights in daily life. Together, they form a unified journey of understanding, experience, and integration, inviting listeners to remember their connection with the divine, with one another, and with the living world. You can find all of them available on the same podcast streaming platforms wherever you listen. And if music helps carry these teachings deeper into the heart, the Unity, Awakening Heaven on Earth album is available on all major music streaming services as a musical companion to this journey. Wherever you engage, through listening, reflection, conversation, or music, may it gently remind you you are not separate. You belong to the one life, and heaven is already unfolding within you. Until next time, walk gently, love deeply, and embody heaven on earth.